Across the United States, Christian communities operate with highly structured systems, strict rules, clearly defined roles, and intense expectations for loyalty. Some describe these as deeply devoted and spiritually focused. Others use a very different term: high control. So, what actually defines a high control Christian group, and where's the line between healthy spiritual structure and unhealthy control? And perhaps more importantly, why do people choose to join these groups? And why do they often stay even when the demands become overwhelming? Let's explore this complex topic with open minds, careful thinking, and a commitment to understanding. Welcome to the Scholar's Ledger, where history, faith, and power are revealed. America has always valued freedom of religion, allowing diverse spiritual communities to flourish with remarkable autonomy. Yet, within this broad freedom, some groups develop structures far more controlling than others, prompting crucial questions about the nature of religious commitment. We're talking about communities with clear hierarchies where authority flows down from leadership with little room for pushback, strict behavioral codes governing daily decisions, and intense spiritual guidance shaping members' understanding of right and wrong. The central question we must wrestle with is this: are these groups simply focused, organized communities with strong beliefs and high commitment, offering a clear path to spiritual growth? Or do they create boundaries and control mechanisms that shape every aspect of members' lives in ways that might not be healthy, potentially limiting individual discernment? Today, we aim to look at this phenomenon without judgment, seeking to understand both why these groups exist and what their multifaceted impact is on the people involved. Our goal is to foster awareness and encourage thoughtful reflection for both researchers and religious individuals alike. First, we need to understand what researchers and experts mean when they discuss high-control religious groups. As this isn't merely about churches with many rules, scholars studying religious communities have identified certain features that consistently appear in groups exerting high levels of control over members' lives. These characteristics help us objectively analyze the dynamics at play, providing a framework for understanding. You'll often find clear, extensive rules governing behavior, not just general moral guidelines, but specific regulations about clothing, entertainment, relationships, career choices, and how members spend their time. For members, these rules can be seen as a divine blueprint for righteous living, offering clarity and protection in a confusing world. Researchers, however, observe how such extensive regulation can limit personal agency and decision-making. There are strong authority structures where leaders' words carry enormous weight, and questioning those leaders is often discouraged or even punished. From a faith perspective, this can be understood as submission to God-ordained authority, a spiritual discipline intended to foster humility and obedience. From a research perspective, this raises questions about accountability, transparency, and the potential for unchecked power dynamics. Expectations for loyalty and obedience often go beyond normal religious commitment, where faithfulness is measured by compliance with leadership directives rather than personal spiritual growth. Members may view this as a necessary commitment to the collective vision and a demonstration of true devotion to God and the community. Conversely, researchers might analyze this as a mechanism for maintaining group cohesion and preventing dissent, potentially at the expense of individual conscience. Finally, there are often limitations on outside influence. Members are discouraged from maintaining close relationships with people outside the group, from consuming media that doesn't align with group teachings, or from engaging with ideas that might challenge the community's worldview. For many within these groups, this is a protective measure, safeguarding spiritual purity and preventing contamination from secular or ungodly influences. For external observers, this can be a red flag, indicating an environment that limits critical thinking and exposure to diverse perspectives, potentially leading to an insular worldview. The verse in Hebrews, "Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they keep watch over your souls," is frequently cited in these communities to justify hierarchical authority. But here's the question we need to ask, both as researchers and as individuals of faith. Do structure and clear authority always nurture faith and spiritual growth? Or can they, at times, restrict personal exploration and the development of individual discernment? There's a significant difference between healthy spiritual guidance that empowers individuals and controlling leadership that stifles questions or disagreement, and discerning this distinction is crucial for a balanced understanding. So why do people join high-control Christian groups in the first place? It's easy to look at these communities from the outside and wonder why anyone would choose such a level of restriction. But the reality is that these groups offer things many people are desperately searching for. Understanding these motivations is key to a balanced perspective, acknowledging the genuine needs these communities often fulfill. They provide a powerful sense of belonging in a culture that often feels fragmented and isolating, a deep human need that transcends religious affiliation. In a high-control group, you know exactly where you fit. You have a defined role and you're part of something bigger than yourself, offering a profound antidote to loneliness. This communal embrace can be incredibly appealing, especially for those feeling adrift or disconnected in modern society. These groups offer deep spiritual guidance with clear answers to life's biggest questions, a compelling draw for individuals seeking ultimate truth and meaning. In a world full of ambiguity and competing truth claims, these communities provide certainty and clarity about what's true, what's right, and what God expects, alleviating existential anxieties. For many, this certainty is a source of immense comfort and spiritual security, a firm foundation in shifting sands. They give members moral clarity with explicit behavioral standards that eliminate the anxiety of trying to figure things out on your own, providing a clear ethical framework. This structured morality can be a relief for those overwhelmed by complex ethical dilemmas or societal pressures, offering a straightforward path to righteousness. It simplifies decision-making and provides a sense of moral purpose, which can be deeply satisfying. Crucially, they provide genuine support in times of hardship. When you're struggling, the community rallies around you, helps you practically, and reinforces that you're not alone. This robust social safety net is a powerful incentive, offering tangible assistance and emotional solidarity that many mainstream institutions struggle to provide. These are real, meaningful benefits that shouldn't be dismissed, as they address fundamental human needs for connection and security. So here's the question we need to consider. Is the intense commitment we see in these groups primarily a sign of spiritual devotion and genuine faith, a testament to a profound search for God? Or is it more of a response to cultural and social needs, people looking for structure, certainty, and community in a rapidly changing world, finding solace in clear boundaries? The honest answer is probably both, as human motivations are rarely singular. People join for spiritual reasons, but they stay partly because these groups meet deep psychological and social needs, creating a powerful, interwoven tapestry of faith and belonging. The same traits that attract members, certainty, structure, clear identity, are often the same traits that raise concerns about autonomy and control, highlighting the inherent tension in these dynamics. Let's talk about what daily life actually looks like in high-control Christian groups, because the level of structure can be truly significant, impacting every facet of existence. For researchers, observing these daily routines provides insight into the practical application of group ideology, while for religious individuals, it speaks to the lived experience of faith. In many of these communities, life follows a highly regimented pattern, often dictated by a comprehensive schedule of religious activities. There are worship schedules that take up substantial portions of the week, not just Sunday services, but midweek meetings, small group gatherings, prayer sessions, and ministry activities that fill most of your free time. This constant engagement is often seen as fostering spiritual discipline and deepening one's relationship with God, a continuous immersion in faith. Community activities are expected, and your participation is often monitored, so declining to attend raises questions about your commitment and spiritual standing. This creates a strong sense of collective responsibility and mutual accountability, reinforcing group identity and shared purpose. However, it can also create pressure to conform, where absence is perceived as a lack of devotion or loyalty, leading to social consequences. Social norms are clearly defined, extending to how you dress, who you can date, what entertainment is acceptable, and how you speak and interact with others. For members, these guidelines are often viewed as expressions of holiness and a commitment to biblical principles, setting them apart from secular society. Researchers might analyze these norms as mechanisms of social control, shaping individual identity to align with group expectations and maintaining a distinct group boundary. Decision-making is frequently guided by leadership, often requiring permission or approval for major life choices like marriage, career changes, or where you live. This can be seen as seeking wise counsel and submitting to spiritual authority, trusting leaders to discern God's will for one's life. Conversely, it can be viewed as an erosion of personal autonomy, where significant life decisions are made by proxy, potentially hindering individual growth and self-reliance. Some members describe this structure as grounding and purposeful, providing stability and removing distractions, helping them focus on what truly matters spiritually. They appreciate having a clear framework for life rather than having to constantly figure everything out themselves, finding peace in prescribed paths. This perspective highlights the genuine benefits of structure for individuals seeking clarity and spiritual focus. But others, especially those who've left these groups, describe it very differently. They talk about feeling suffocated, about having no space for personal growth or exploration, about constantly being monitored and judged, leading to a sense of oppression. This contrasting experience underscores the subjective nature of these environments and the potential for both positive and negative impacts on individuals. So here's the question: how much personal freedom actually exists in these environments? And at what point does structure become restrictive? And when members say they've chosen this level of restriction, is that genuinely free choice, or has it been shaped by influence, pressure, and the psychological dynamics of the group? This is a really difficult question to answer, even for the people living in these communities, requiring careful consideration of both internal conviction and external influence. We need to talk about the psychology of high control groups, because understanding the psychological mechanisms at work helps us evaluate what's happening with greater nuance. Psychologists who study these communities have identified several dynamics that are consistently present, offering valuable insights for both academic understanding and personal reflection. Social pressure and peer reinforcement create powerful incentives for conformity, a fundamental aspect of human group behavior. When everyone around you believes the same things and follows the same rules, and when not conforming leads to social consequences, the pressure to comply is enormous, even if it's not explicitly stated. This powerful social dynamic can shape beliefs and behaviors in ways individuals may not fully recognize, fostering a strong sense of us versus them. Clear norms and expectations reduce anxiety for many people, as the human mind often seeks order and predictability. Not having to figure out what's right or make complicated decisions can be psychologically comfortable, especially for people who struggle with uncertainty or decision fatigue. The group creates predictability in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, offering a sense of security and control over one's environment. However, psychologists also note some concerning patterns. Intense group expectations can shape thinking in ways members don't fully recognize, a process often referred to as thought reform or cognitive narrowing. When you're constantly surrounded by the same messages, when alternative perspectives are labeled as dangerous or ungodly, when questioning is discouraged, your thinking naturally narrows, becoming less open to external information. It's not that people are being brainwashed in some dramatic, overt way. It's that the environment shapes cognition through constant reinforcement and the absence of challenging perspectives, subtly influencing worldview. There's also the phenomenon of invested identity, where your sense of self becomes so intertwined with the group that leaving would mean losing your entire identity, your community, and your understanding of reality. This creates a powerful psychological barrier to exit, even when people start having doubts, as the cost of leaving feels overwhelmingly high. The group becomes the primary source of meaning, purpose, and social connection, making separation a profound and terrifying prospect. So we have to ask, could the intense expectations and social dynamics in these groups be shaping members' thinking and limiting their ability to critically evaluate their situation, even if unintentionally? And is that necessarily a problem, or could it also be an opportunity for deeper reflection and more intentional faith, a way to cultivate unwavering conviction? Some people argue that modern culture encourages shallow, constantly shifting beliefs, and that deep commitment requires boundaries and structure to truly flourish. It's not a simple issue, demanding careful consideration of both individual well-being and the pursuit of profound spiritual experience. This brings us to a fundamental tension at the heart of this whole discussion. the balance between faith and personal autonomy. Religious faith, particularly in communal contexts, genuinely does thrive on certain things: trust in spiritual leadership, accountability to others, and moral guidance that helps shape behavior. These aren't inherently problematic. In fact, they are often seen as features of healthy, vibrant religious community, fostering spiritual growth and collective purpose. But human beings also value independence, the ability to think critically and make their own decisions, and a personal conscience that might sometimes conflict with group expectations. This innate desire for self-determination is a core aspect of human dignity and spiritual maturity, allowing individuals to forge their own relationship with the divine. The challenge lies in integrating these two powerful forces: communal commitment and individual freedom. There's a verse in 1 Thessalonians that says, "Test everything, hold fast what is good." That's actually a call to discernment, to not just accepting things uncritically, but evaluating them against a broader understanding of truth and spiritual principles. It suggests that questioning and testing are part of healthy faith, not threats to it, encouraging a robust and thoughtful engagement with one's beliefs. This biblical injunction highlights the importance of individual spiritual responsibility. So the question becomes, can high control structures actually support genuine spiritual growth, or do they ultimately limit the development of personal discernment and mature faith? There's an argument to be made that if you never have to figure things out yourself, if you never wrestle with difficult questions, if you never face the challenge of making decisions without clear guidance from leadership, you might not develop the kind of mature, resilient faith that can handle complexity and adversity. True spiritual strength often emerges from navigating doubt and making independent choices. On the other hand, some people argue that modern individualism has damaged faith communities, that our cultural emphasis on personal autonomy has made it impossible to build the kind of deep, committed community that requires sacrifice and submission to something beyond yourself. They'd say that the problem isn't high control, but rather a societal inability to commit deeply to anything, leading to superficial spiritual experiences. From this perspective, strong structures are a necessary antidote to cultural fragmentation. So where's the healthy balance? How much structure and authority is appropriate in religious community? And at what point does it cross the line into unhealthy control, stifling the very spiritual growth it aims to foster? These aren't easy questions to answer, requiring careful theological reflection, psychological insight, and a deep respect for individual experience. The answer likely lies in a dynamic tension, where authority serves to empower, not to suppress, and where discernment is cultivated, not extinguished. It's important to understand high-control Christian groups within the broader American cultural context, because these communities don't exist in a vacuum. The United States is incredibly diverse religiously, and expressions of faith vary wildly across different regions, denominations, and communities, reflecting a rich tapestry of spiritual experience. These groups often seem to be responding to specific aspects of American culture, offering particular solutions to widespread societal challenges. There's a profound desire for certainty in uncertain times. When the culture is rapidly changing and traditional values are being challenged, some people gravitate toward communities that offer clear, unchanging answers. This provides a sense of stability and moral anchor in a world perceived as increasingly relativistic and chaotic. For many, this certainty is not just comforting, but essential for navigating life's complexities. These groups provide a strong cultural or social identity in a pluralistic society where many people feel their traditional beliefs are under attack or becoming marginalized. Belonging to a distinct community with clear boundaries can offer a powerful sense of self and purpose, a refuge from perceived cultural erosion. This collective identity can be a source of strength and resilience for its members, reinforcing shared values and a common worldview. Furthermore, there are historical patterns of communal living and high-commitment religious communities in American history, from the Puritans to the Shakers to various utopian religious experiments. So, in some ways, high-control groups are part of a long American tradition of people creating intentional communities with strict standards as a response to broader cultural concerns and a desire for a more perfect society. This historical lens helps us understand these groups not as anomalies, but as recurring expressions of certain human and spiritual impulses. The question is, are these groups primarily responding to genuine modern challenges, fragmentation, loss of meaning, moral confusion, by offering a coherent and supportive alternative? Or are they continuing old patterns of authoritarian religious structure in a new context, potentially replicating dynamics that have historically led to harm? And does it matter? Because even if we can explain historically and sociologically why these groups exist, we still need to evaluate whether they are ultimately healthy for the people involved, fostering genuine well-being and spiritual flourishing. This requires a balanced approach, acknowledging both the historical roots and the contemporary impacts. So, what truly motivates Americans to join and remain in highly structured, high-control faith communities? Are the rules and authority structures primarily signs of care, of leaders who genuinely want to protect and guide their members towards spiritual growth and a deeper relationship with God? Or are they ultimately about control, about maintaining power and ensuring compliance, potentially at the expense of individual autonomy and critical thought? And how does genuine personal choice intersect with the kind of community commitment that requires giving up significant personal freedom? These are questions without simple answers, but they speak to fundamental tensions at the heart of faith in modern pluralistic American society. They highlight the ongoing tension between individual freedom and communal commitment, between the impulse to question and the call to obedience, and between developing personal discernment and submitting to spiritual authority. These are not just academic debates, but lived realities for millions. High-control Christian groups raise profound questions about devotion, authority, and freedom that every person of faith needs to wrestle with, whether they're in these groups or not. Whether these communities ultimately nurture their members or damage them probably varies significantly from group to group and person to person, depending on specific leadership, individual personalities, and the group's evolving dynamics. But examining them helps reveal the complexity of faith in America today, how people are searching for meaning, certainty, and belonging, and the diverse, sometimes challenging ways they try to find those things. This is the Scholar's Ledger, where history, faith, and power are revealed. If this video made you think about religious community and authority in new ways, we invite you to engage further. Please subscribe to our channel for more in-depth explorations. Share your thoughtful perspective in the comments below, and consider sharing this video with others who might benefit from this balanced discussion. Your engagement helps us continue these vital conversations.